In late 2025, a senior United States intelligence officer filed a report. The report describes phenomena observed near what the document only calls a sensitive U.S. military facility. That officer's account is not from a forum. It's not from a fringe magazine. It's a federal document. And on May 22, 2026, the Pentagon released it to the public. A separate report, this one declassified from the Armed Forces Special Weapons Program between 1948 and 1950. 209 UAP sightings near Sandia Base, New Mexico. The sightings consisted of green orbs, discs, and fireballs. Sandia Base is where the United States stored its nuclear stockpile. The U.S. government revealed both of these documents on the same day, on the same website, alongside 51 military videos, many of them previously unreleased to the public. Tonight, we walk through some of them and ask the question, what does the evidence actually say, and what does it deliberately not say? This is the 3 a.m. transmission. The signal is up. This is episode 1. Thank you for being here for my first transmission. If you stick with us, we will entertain you with paranormal news, deep investigations into the unexplained, footage analysis, conspiracies pulled apart with an investigator's eye, and your personal stories if you choose to share them. But tonight is a big one to open with, because the single biggest story in the entire space is unfolding in real time. Let's get started. First, a rundown of what's been happening this week. France's National Assembly has confirmed it will host a UAP conference on June 29th of this year, with support from CNES, France's space agency, and GEIPAN, the French government's official UAP study group that has existed since 1977. The fact that the French legislature is hosting, not a fringe society, is the story itself. Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary Minoru Kihara stated that Tokyo is, quote, constantly gathering and analyzing information, end quote, on UAPs. In close coordination with the United States, Japan may release its own files on a case-by-case basis. On May 18th, the National Security Agency released hundreds of pages of historical UAP records, the result of a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit by the Disclosure Foundation. Many of these records were previously classified at Top Secret Umbra. The Umbra code word was officially retired in 1999. We'll dig into this later in the show. In February 2023, after the Chinese spy balloon was shot down, the U.S. military shot down 3 more unidentified objects over the next week. One was over Lake Huron. We never saw footage until now. Footage of the Lake Huron shoot-down is in the second Pentagon release. We'll get into it in tonight's main transmission. A piece from the Free Press this week was titled, Trump's UFO Dump Leaves Earthlings Wanting More. Reaction to it has been mixed. Believers feel the files don't go far enough. Skeptics say that nothing shown is genuinely anomalous. Journalists are noting that no one seems to be looking at the files. We are tonight. On May 8, 2026, the United States Department of War launched a website called Pursue, the Presidential Unsealing and Reporting System for UAP Encounters. The URL is war.gov/UFO. The release fulfilled a directive issued by President Trump on February 19, 2026 via Truth Social, instructing the Pentagon to identify and declassify UAP-related records. In its first 12 hours, the website received 340 million hits, top 20 websites in American numbers for a single government UAP page. About that URL. In September 2025, President Trump signed Executive Order 14347, authorizing the Department of Defense to use Department of War as a secondary title. The official legal name is still Department of Defense. A permanent rename would have required an act of Congress, but the executive branch is now using the war.gov domain and the Department of War branding in official documentations, including Pursue. The first drop on May 8th consisted of 162 files, 120 PDFs, 28 videos, and 14 images. By agency, it broke down to 82 from the Pentagon, 56 from the FBI, 12 from NASA, 8 from the State Department, and 4 with the originating agency unidentified. Files date as far back as 1944, the tail end of World War II, through our most recent encounters that have been recorded. A quick highlight reel from Drop 1. A 1947 Pan American Airways pilot sighting of a gold-colored cylindrical object near Newfoundland, traveling at roughly 175 miles per hour. 2 pilots, 90-second sightings, both sides of the aircraft. An Apollo 12 image from 1969 shows what appears to be a triangle of bluish lights in deep space. A Gemini 7 report from December 1965. The U.S. Department of War's official framing on the Pursue Archive page is precise. The material archived here are unresolved cases, meaning the government is unable to make a definitive determination on the nature of the observed phenomena. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, in his personal remarks on release day, said the files have long fueled justified speculation and that the time has come for Americans to see them for themselves. That's very careful institutional language. The government isn't saying these are aliens, of course. They are saying, we looked at these and we cannot tell you what they are. That's a very important distinction. And that brings us to May 22nd, the second drop. 64 new files, 6 PDFs, 7 audio recordings, and 51 videos. The announcement came from Sean Parnell, Assistant to the Secretary of War for Public Affairs and Chief Pentagon Spokesman. He stated, "Today, we are publishing the second release of Declassified and Historical Unified Anomalous Phenomena files. The collection is housed on war.gov/UFO, and additional files will be released on a rolling basis." The phrase rolling basis really matters. New releases are coming roughly every 2 weeks. This is a process that the U.S. government is pushing. File 1, the 209 green orbs at Sandia. Document 1 is from the Armed Forces Special Weapons Program. Subject 209 reported UAP sightings near Sandia Base 1948 to 1950. Sandia Base in Albuquerque, New Mexico, was the primary storage and assembly site for the United States' early nuclear weapons stockpile in the late 1940s and early 1950s. Some of the most sensitive military real estate in the country at that period. The document describes sightings of green orbs, discs, and fireballs. 209 of them in a 2-year window over a nuclear weapons facility. Could any of these have been mundane? Absolutely. Some were likely weather phenomena, some likely classified U.S. tests of one kind or another. That type of testing phenomena should just be expected. But 2 things make the file interesting. First would be the volume. 209 sightings is a lot. Second, the pattern of UAPs appearing near nuclear weapons infrastructure has been a recurring subject in the historical record when it comes to UFOs. File 2, the speechless officer. The one we opened with, from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. The subject is a quote-unquote U.S. person, ODNI terminology, a senior U.S. intelligence community official, still serving, identity protected. The report describes phenomena observed near a sensitive U.S. military facility in late 2025, according to the file itself, as reported by CBS News on the date of the release. The officer described an experience that left him virtually speechless. That's a strong phrase for an intelligence professional. These are people trained to assess and describe with precision. I know when I evaluate a witness, I ask 3 questions to myself: motivation, credibility, and what would make their account more or less believable. A still-serving senior intelligence officer filing a formal narrative through the ODNI is the highest witness credibility category available, short of having a name attached to the report. They are putting their career on a piece of paper. That doesn't make the content true, but it's also far from a Reddit or 4chan forum post. File 3, the tilting object over Columbus, Ohio. Uploader defined title. Several unidentified aerial phenomena encountered in the vicinity of Columbus, Ohio. Date November 1st, 2022. AARO's assessment is that this video came from an infrared sensor on a U.S. military platform operating in the U.S. Northern Command area in November 2022. A user uploaded it to a classified network on March 2023. It surfaced publicly for the first time on May 22, 2026. In the video, black and white FLIR washed out, a fuzzy object appears to tilt sideways and then vanish from the sensor. The detail matters. Tilt and then suddenly fly off is one of the oldest patterns in UAP reporting, going back to disk-type sightings of the 1940s and 1950s. Now, a 2022 military infrared sensor has captured the same described behavior, same maneuver, 80 years apart and in the documented historical record. Skeptical case: birds, balloons, sensor artifacts. AARO has not classified this video as resolved. It remains in the unresolved bucket, meaning, in the government's own words, undetermined. File 4. 4 objects information. June 1st, 2024. A video shows 4 oblong objects moving in formation over the ocean very quickly. 4 objects in coordinated formation over open water rules out most birds. Birds don't fly in rigid coordinated formations at speed over open water. Drones can, though. Drones are the most likely conventional explanation, but drone raises its own question. Whose drones? Where? Why? And how did the operator avoid identification by the U.S. military? What do you think these are? File 5, Lake Huron. February 12, 2023. An F-16 piloted by an Air National Guard pilot fires a Sidewinder missile at an unidentified object over Lake Huron and brings it down. We didn't get footage of that engagement at the time. The administration was not forthcoming about what the object was. That video is in this release. You can watch it on war.gov website right now. The object is, in the Pentagon's words, a UAP. 3 years later, it's still classified as a UAP. Still unresolved. What do you think this was? The most important takeaways from the second drop isn't any single file. It's the meta-fact. This is a continuing, rolling, multi-agency declassification process, and the Pentagon's own resolution office has classified everything in these releases as unresolved. That is the United States government saying on its official website, we can't tell you what this is. Now, that's not the same as it's aliens, but it's the same as the official position is no longer that this can be easily explained away. One last thing from this drop before we wrap. Among the audio files released were 7 NASA mission recordings: Apollo 12, Apollo 17, Mercury 7, 8, and 9, and Mercury Redstone 4. Astronauts in space, in their own voices, reporting things they could not identify, now public. Listen to them. These are some of the most accomplished people the United States has ever produced, describing what they observed.
A few very bright particles or fragments or something that go drifting by as we maneuver.
Roger, understand.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of big ones out my window now. They're just bright. Looks like the 4th of July out Ron's window. Yeah, now you can see some of them in shape. They're very jagged, angular fragments that are tumbling.
Roger, they look like fluid of some sort?
Not to me, they look like pieces of something.
Roger.
They're very bright.
Jack, we'd like Omni Charlie.
The reason I'm doing this show, and the reason I hope you stay with it, is that this material has lived for decades in a strange gap between 2 cultural slots. On one side, the snickering dismissal. Oh, it's UFOs, it's just a fringe topic. On the other, the absolute certainty of those who believe. They are aliens, it's the government, they're hiding things, here's my book, buy my book. Neither position is actually responsive to the documents. Documents are saying something narrower and much more interesting. They tell us that the United States military has, for decades, tracked things it cannot identify In airspaces, it is responsible for. Near facilities, it considers sensitive. That's the position of our government. Right now, on its official website, it's not, we have alien bodies. It's not, this is all fake and don't worry about it. It is, we don't know what these things are. We don't know what these are is the most honest place to start. And it is where this show will start. This has been the 3 a.m. transmission, episode 1. Stay on this frequency. We'll see you again soon.